So Bob Arum has signed Bakhodir Jalolov to a multi-fight, multi-year deal. For those of you who are not familiar with Jalolov, he is the Olympic gold medalist, won gold at the last Olympics at super heavyweight. And since winning that gold medal, he's been back and forth competing in the pros and in the amateurs. They never used to allow this back in the days. Once you turned pro and had, I think, 3 or 4 fights, you were not allowed to go back and be an amateur again, but they changed the rules. Maybe they've increased the number of pro fights you're allowed to have and then go back to the amateurs. Maybe the cutoff is like 10 fights or 12 fights now. I'm not sure. Whatever the case may be, Jalolov has signed this deal with Top Rank. He's from Uzbekistan. He's 28 years of age, 6'7" tall. He's a southpaw, 81-inch reach. If you haven't seen him fight before, he is a tremendous puncher, and I mean tremendous, with the southpaw left. And I've said this in previous videos. Other than Deontay Wilder's right hand, Jalolov might have the hardest single punch in the heavyweight division right now. His backhand is crazy. Just go on YouTube and watch some of his amateur bouts where he's been cleaning people out for years. So, for example, he cleaned out Torres, who's an American heavyweight prospect. I think that was in was it World Championships? It wasn't in the Olympics because he fought Torres again in the Olympics and beat him again, but didn't knock him out the second time. The first time they fought, I think it was the first time they fought, he knocked Torres out horribly. In fact, there was controversy at the time because Jalolov had had some pro fights. And people were saying, this is morally wrong. How can this guy who's had all this professional training be fighting this amateur who's never fought in the pros before? This is what happens. But he's done that to many other people, Jalolov. There's footage of him knocking Fraser Clark silly. I'm not sure if that's an actual amateur bout or that was a sparring session, but he was knocking Fraser Clark silly. Fraser Clark was all over the gaff. Legs gone from Jalolov. So Jalolov's backhand is tremendously powerful. And of all the heavyweights under the age of 30 right now, he appears to be the most advanced. He appears to be the most polished. He appears to be the most ready for a title shot. I'm not saying he's necessarily ready right now, but I think he'll be ready sooner. In terms of his style, he says that he models what he does on the Klitschko's. Obviously, they were orthodox, he's southpaw, but you can definitely see it. He's not really a Vladimir Klitschko type who holds center ring and hits you with this really powerful jab and leans on you and does all this kind of thing. I mean, he does a little bit of leaning, but I would say his style is more comparable to Vitaly Klitschko, who would use more lateral movement than Vladimir, who would box on his back foot more, do a little less holding, and so on. So to me, Jalolov is a little more similar to Vitaly, and Jalolov is good at staying out the way. If you've watched his fights so far as a pro, and even his amateur bouts, he's good at keeping his head out the way and walking you into that straight left hand and setting you up with a jab, spinning off and doing all that kind of thing. Now, on the downside, he did lose in the amateurs to a certain Mr. Joe Joyce. And what disturbed me about that fight was that Jalolov looked like he wanted to quit. Joe Joyce came steaming out, stuck it right on Jalolov. Remember, Joe Joyce only an inch shorter than Jalolov, and they've got about the same reach and whatever. So he's not one of these shorter heavyweights like Torres who needs to work to try and get close, and Jalolov can just keep walking him onto these left hands and keeping them at the end of his punches. No, Joyce is almost the same height, same reach as Jalolov. So Jalolov couldn't hide behind his dimensions the way he can against shorter fighters. Joyce bum rushed him, took him into deep waters, and Jalolov looked like he wanted to quit. You guys go watch the fight for yourselves and see what you think. But I didn't like Jalolov's body language at all, the way he looked in the corner and all that kind of thing. And yeah, it was a long time ago. You could say that he was far less experienced. He was in his early 20s, I think, at the time, and things would be different now. Well, perhaps they would be different now if he fought Joyce, who's nearly 40. But the reason I'm concerned is because I've seen what Jalolov is like when his back's up against the wall, and I didn't like what I saw. But it's going to be difficult getting him into that position because you got to get past his skills, his size, and his construct, and his power. But if somebody does manage to get past all that, they might be able to break him again. Seen it before. And I'll compare it to Deontay Wilder when he fought in the amateurs and got stopped. Go look at that fight when Wilder got stopped. He did not look sorry for himself. He looked like a guy who wanted to go out on his shield. And we've seen the same thing in the pros. When Deontay Wilder fought Tyson Fury, the second and third times when he was taking a terrible beating, the guy went out on his shield, went down swinging, wasn't feeling sorry for himself, wasn't looking for a way out, wasn't looking like he wanted to quit. Deontay Wilder's one of these guys who says he would rather lose his life in the ring than quit. And at least up until this point, that has proven to be true. He's really about that life. So as much as I've criticized the things that Wilder said over the years, I have to give him credit for his heart. The guy has got a massive heart. He's got a heart the size of the entire state of Alabama. All right. So there's an example in the amateurs of Wilder showing heart, defiance when his back's up against the wall, and that's carried through to the pros. Will Jalolov's potential lack of heart in the amateurs carry through to the pros at some point? That's my only reservation about him, is that when I saw him really dragged into the trenches against Joyce, but everything else about him just screams world champion. I mean, Vladimir Klitschko wasn't the most tenacious guy. It was only at the very end when he fought the likes of Kubrat Pulev and Anthony Joshua where he actually managed to produce in that department. But prior to that, Vladimir was scared in a firefight, and he still managed to become very successful. So perhaps even with that issue, Jalolov can still be successful. We will see, but have a look at him and see what you guys think for yourselves. Bakhodir Jalolov, the new signing for Top Rank. I think this guy is going to be a problem in the heavyweight division. I'll leave it there.